When I was young, I failed primary school twice. Middle school, failed 3 times. I applied for university, failed 10 times. I applied for 30 jobs, got rejected by every single one. I went to KFC when they opened in my city, 24 people applied, 23 got the job, I was the only one rejected. People ask me, Jack, weren't you angry? Weren't you bothered? I was. For about 3 seconds. Then I thought, okay, next. You see, here's what most people get wrong. They think peace is something the world gives you. They think calm is something that arrives when everything finally goes right. But that's like waiting for the rain to stop before you learn to swim. You'll drown waiting. Let me tell you something I learned not from business books, not from Silicon Valley, not from any billionaire conference, but from getting rejected by life so many times that rejection started paying me rent to live in my head. You can live a life where nothing, not their rudeness, not their lies, not even their disrespect, can shake your peace. Not because you become cold. Not because you become numb. But because you become like a mountain. The wind howls. The rain crashes. The mountain doesn't move. Not because the mountain is stubborn. Because the mountain knows what it is. That's what we're talking about today. It's not them. It was never them. The first thing I tell young entrepreneurs when they come to me crying about a deal that fell apart, a partner who betrayed them, an investor who insulted their idea, I tell them. The problem is not what they said. The problem is what their words woke up inside you. Carl Jung, very smart man, European, very serious, he said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In China we have a simpler way of saying this. The wound you don't see controls the hand you don't feel. Think about it. 2 people face the exact same insult. One laughs. The other stews for 3 days. The insult didn't change. The difference is what the insult met inside. I remember when Alibaba was small, really small, 18 people in my apartment, nobody believed in us. A journalist wrote an article calling me a crazy English teacher who doesn't understand the internet. Did it hurt? Yes. For about 1 hour. Then I thought, well, he's right about one thing. I was an English teacher. You see, what hurt wasn't the article. What hurt was the part of me that still needed the world to say, Jack, you're not crazy. You're smart. You belong. When you need the world to validate you, every insult feels like a wound. When you don't need it, every insult feels like weather. It comes. It goes. You keep walking. Most people don't live. They react. I meet people every day. Smart people, talented people, and I watch them closely. One careless text from a client ruins their entire morning. One comment from a stranger online derails their whole week. One cold look from their boss and suddenly they're questioning everything about themselves. That's not living. That's surviving on emotional autopilot. They don't own their emotions. Their emotions own them. One insult, one rejection, one unexpected look, and their entire energy shifts. Not because the world is powerful. Because they never learned how to take the power back. I've been there. Many years ago, when I was building Alibaba, we almost went bankrupt 3 times. 3 times. Investors pulled out. Staff doubted. Competitors laughed. And every night, I'd go home and replay every conversation, every rejection, every sharp word. You know what I was doing? I was letting people who didn't even know me rent space in my mind for free. Free. Not even a good business deal. The power of the pause, what Stoicism knew and neuroscience confirms. Here is something the Stoics figured out 2,000 years ago, sitting in marble columns with no internet, no smartphone, no TED Talk to tell them what to think. You control nothing outside yourself. You control everything inside. Epictetus, a slave, by the way, a man who owned nothing, taught that we should concern ourselves only with what's within our control. Our thoughts. Our actions. Our beliefs. Everything else, what people say, what they do, how they treat you, is external. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor, a man who ruled the known world, wrote the same thing in his journal every morning: "Today I will meet people who are rude, arrogant, selfish, and ungrateful. I cannot be harmed by any of them, because none of them can force my mind to abandon what is right." An emperor and a slave, saying the same thing. That should tell you something. Wealth doesn't buy this. Poverty doesn't prevent it. It's a choice, made over and over, in the space between what happens to you and how you respond. That space, neuroscience now confirms, is real. Between stimulus and response, there is a gap. In that gap is your freedom. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the Holocaust, not a business school, not a luxury retreat, a concentration camp, said it like this: "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." So when someone insults you and your heart tightens and your jaw locks and your mind starts spinning, that moment? That 1 second before you react? That's where your entire life is decided. Most people rush past it. They react. They snap. They send the angry text. They say the thing they can't take back. And then they spend 3 weeks undoing what 3 seconds of recklessness created. But if you pause, just one breath, one moment, everything changes. You step out of the emotion and into observation. You stop being the puppet and start being the puppeteer. Your triggers are your teachers. I tell my team this all the time: the people who annoy you the most are your greatest teachers. Not because they're wise. Not because they're kind. But because they show you exactly where you're still attached, still raw, still building your identity on other people's approval. When someone criticizes you and you explode, that explosion isn't from their words. It's from a need to protect an identity you've worked hard to maintain. Maybe being seen as competent, or smart, or strong, is so central to how you view yourself that even the slightest crack feels like a collapse. That's the real battlefield. Not the conversation. Not the coworker. Not the stranger online. It's what's happening inside you. When I was starting out, there was a competitor, very successful, very arrogant, who publicly said Alibaba would fail within a year. He said I didn't understand technology, didn't understand business, that I was a joke. At first, it stung. I won't lie. I'm human. But then I sat with it and I asked myself, why does this bother me so much? What part of me needs this man to respect me? And I realized I didn't need his respect. I needed my own. And I already had it. That's when the sting became irrelevant. Not because I suppressed it. Because I understood it. And understanding transforms what suppression cannot. Stop signing contracts nobody agreed to. Here's something nobody teaches you in school, in business, in life. Most of your emotional pain doesn't come from what people do. It comes from what you expected them to do and they didn't. You carry around invisible contracts. Silent agreements that say, if I'm kind, they'll respect me. If I show up, they'll value me. If I'm honest, they'll never hurt me. But nobody signed that contract except you. Life doesn't work like a vending machine. You don't insert kindness and always get appreciation. You don't give your best and automatically receive fairness. People don't play by rules they never knew they were part of. I learned this the hard way. In the early days of Alibaba, I gave everything to my team. My time, my money, my vision. And when a few key people left at the worst possible moment, I felt betrayed. Furious. Lost. But then I sat with it and I thought, did they promise to stay forever? No. Did I assume they would? Yes. Who created that expectation? They did? Or did I? I did. I created a contract in my head and then got angry when other people didn't follow a script they'd never read. The moment I let go of those hidden contracts, something shifted. I stopped expecting people to act like versions of themselves I had created in my mind. I started accepting them as they were imperfect, human, carrying their own invisible burdens. And oddly enough, when I stopped expecting so much, people started showing up more sincerely. Because there was no pressure. No scorekeeping. No silent weight they could feel but couldn't understand. The mask you wear is the prison you built. Let me ask you something personal. At some point, you learn to wear a mask. Not the kind you buy in a shop. The invisible kind. The smile when you're hurt. The silence when you want to scream. The confidence that hides the uncertainty. We all do it. I did it for years. In meetings with investors who looked down on me, I'd act like I knew exactly what I was doing. Inside, I was terrified. But outside? Calm. Composed. Unbothered. The mask helped me survive. It got me through rooms I might not have walked into otherwise. But the problem with the mask, you forget where it ends and you begin. And then you're exhausted. Not because you're weak. Because living out of alignment is the heaviest thing a person can carry. Every interaction becomes a calculation. Every conversation a performance. Every room you walk into feels like a stage. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But before you can become that person, you have to let go of who you're pretending to be. When you burn the mask, when you stop negotiating for belonging, something remarkable happens. People feel the difference. Not because you're trying to be impressive. Because you're real. And real has a gravity that performance never will. Train your mind like you train your body. Now here's the practical part. The Stoics had a practice they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Every morning, they would sit quietly and imagine what could go wrong. Someone might insult me today. A deal might fall apart. Someone I trust might disappoint me. Not to create fear. Not to be negative. But to rehearse. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between imagination and reality. Athletes use mental rehearsal. Soldiers do. Surgeons do. Why don't you? When you rehearse chaos before it arrives, you shift from being emotionally fragile to emotionally prepared. You're not blindsided. You've already seen this movie. You know how it ends. With you still standing. This is your mental gym. Every morning, 2 minutes. Ask yourself, what could challenge me today? Who might frustrate me? What might trigger me? Then see yourself responding not with anger, not with fear, but with that quiet awareness that says, I expected this. And I'm ready. Every trigger is a rep. You don't grow stronger muscles by sitting on the couch. You grow them by lifting something heavy and choosing to come back tomorrow. Same with your emotions. Your triggers are your emotional dumbbells. Every time someone cuts you off in traffic and you breathe instead of curse, that's a rep. Every time your coworker interrupts you and you pause instead of snap, that's a rep. Every time a text doesn't come when you expected it and you let the disappointment pass without spiraling, that's a rep. And with each rep, you get stronger. Not by force. By choice. Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old but on building the new. So don't fight every trigger. Don't obsess over the fact that you got annoyed. Ask, how can I use this? How can this become the rep I needed today? This is emotional mastery. Not never being triggered. Using your triggers as training partners. Let them be wrong. Let it mean nothing. There's something in you that wants to correct them. You hear the lie, the misunderstanding, the subtle jab. And part of you tightens. You want to set the record straight. But what if you let them be wrong about you and let it mean nothing? Most of us think being right equals strength. When someone misjudges us, we feel responsible to correct it. But the cost is higher than we realize: our time, our energy, our calm, our sleep. Aristotle said, it is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. You can hear criticism, hold it in your mind for a moment, and choose not to accept it. Not because you're afraid of conflict, but because you've reached a level of clarity where not everything deserves a response. Letting someone be wrong about you is not weakness. It's strength in its most silent form. It says, I know who I am. I don't need your agreement to feel real. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop begging for fairness in conversations that were never about truth. You stop chasing closure from people who can't even give it to themselves. Don't catch the insult. Imagine every insult is a tennis ball flying at you. Most people catch it instinctively, grip it tightly, examine it, and carry it around for the rest of the day, sometimes the rest of their life. But what if you didn't catch it? What if, when the words came flying, the sarcasm, the judgment, the passive aggression, you simply let it pass? Watch it float by. Let it hit the ground with a quiet thud. Useless. Powerless. Empty. This sounds simple, but it takes practice. Because insults don't just land on the surface. They attach to old wounds, old doubts, and pull you into a spiral. But when you start seeing insults as air, sound without substance, just another expression of someone else's energy that you're not obligated to take on, suddenly the world becomes lighter. Not because people stop throwing words. Because you stop catching them. They are not attacking you. They are bleeding on you. When someone lashes out, mocks you, treats you coldly, your first instinct is to take it personally. But the deeper truth is this: they're not attacking you. They're bleeding on you. That anger, that sarcasm, that sharp look, it's not a weapon aimed at your identity. It's a symptom of something unhealed in them. Pain leaks. It erupts. It festers. And it often lands on whoever happens to be standing nearby. Carl Jung said, knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. When you understand your own wounds, you start seeing that others aren't trying to hurt you, they're trying to survive themselves. Sometimes survival looks like cruelty. But it's pain in disguise. This doesn't mean you excuse bad behavior. You can still set boundaries. You can still say, this isn't okay. But you say it with clarity, not with confusion. Without tying their pain to your worth. The goal isn't to become emotionless. The goal is to become emotionally free. Let me be very clear about something. This is not about becoming a robot. This is not about never feeling. This is not about numbness. You are not your anger. You are not your fear. You are not your pain. You are the one watching those things. You are the awareness beneath it all. The more you connect to that awareness, the less you need the outside world to behave perfectly in order for you to feel okay. That doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means your peace is no longer dependent on the presence or absence of it. That's a whole different level of freedom. The final frame, standing in the storm. The world won't go quiet just because you found peace. People will still cut you off mid-sentence. They'll still talk behind your back. They'll fail to apologize. They'll choose ego over honesty. The noise won't stop. The chaos won't dissolve. But if you've mastered what we've been talking about, you won't shake. Because the point was never to change the world. The point was to change how you move through it. Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. When you live from that place, people notice. Not because you're loud. Because you carry something rare. A stillness that no insult can shatter. A calm that doesn't rely on comfort. A clarity that came not from escaping chaos, but from walking straight through it and coming out the other side unshaken. You're not triggered. You're trained. You're not reactive. You're responsible for your energy, your choices, your presence. When the world pulls at your edges, remember, your strength is not in how loudly you react. It's in how quietly you remain centered. Let them shout. Let life twist. You are not here to match the storm. You are here to master your calm. And once you've got it, you'll never again be angry or bothered by anyone or anything. Not because nothing touches you. Because nothing owns you anymore. That's all I have to share today. If something here woke something up in you, it's not by accident. Come back when you're ready. We'll be right here building the silence that holds real power. Thank you for walking this path with us. You are part of something bigger than you know. And when you're ready, the next level is waiting.